Hello, this is Peter Falk, and you're listening to the Columbo Files on the Ludic Lounge, hosted by Antonicus Maximus and John Soares.
Hello, good listeners, and welcome back to a new year, the second year, well, almost, of the Columbo Files. I am your host, John Soares. With me, as always, is the man, the myth, the gluteus to the Maximus, Antonicus Gluteus Maximus the Fourth. Bid a good Queen's Gambit morning thing to the listeners at home, Anthony.
Good Queen's Gambit Moro thing to you fine gentlefolk listening at home. John, as we like to say here on the Columbo Files, New Year, same Columbo.
Indeed. Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be back. We took a little prolonged vacation for the holidays, but we are raring to go. As Anthony put it earlier, he's just itching. I mean, to go. He said something more filthy, but
yes,
I'm not going to do that to our gentle listeners. They are
Let's
kind
try to
and
keep
souls.
the E for as long as possible until I drop an F-bomb, as I always do.
Well, screw that shit.
You funny guy. You just a wild and crazy guy.
Hey, man. You on a podcast?
This is a more visual gag.
And the older people who know the two wild and crazy guys bit are probably laughing their butts off. Also, quick shout out to returning emailer Pat, our lawyer buddy Pat, who emailed us twice now just to follow up on Stitch and Crime. Pat, we appreciate your comments. And I honestly do think that we should probably add that part of could they have gotten away with it?
That would be an interesting portion to this Columbo Files. But John, I want to give a special shout out to Michelle Brzezinski on Twitter, who reached out to us, started following us on Twitter, and said a very nice word of just discovered a new Columbo podcast, the Columbo Files, tagged us and said very entertaining and informative. So thank you so much, Michelle. Hopefully it's Michelle. If I'm pronouncing your name wrong, please, 1,000 pardons.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you all for listening. We're happy to bring you this show. And without further ado, Anthony, I think it's time to get into this week's cast and crew, starting with the murderer of this week, playing chess grandmaster Emmett Clayton, Laurence Harvey, Anthony. Now, Mr. Harvey was a Lithuanian-born British actor and director. He was known for a very clipped, refined accent and his very cool screen presence. His most notable credits were his performance at in the 1959 film Room at the Top. That film earned him a BAFTA award, or at least a nomination, not the award, and a nomination for the Academy Award. Room at the Top was directed by Jack Kruschen in his directorial debut and based off of the novel by the same name by John Brain.
But John, we can't also forget the Alamo.
Indeed. You never forget the Alamo. Clayton was also known for playing the part of William Barrett Travis in the Alamo, which was the 1960 epic historical war film that was produced and directed by John Wayne, and also starring John Wayne as Davy Crockett.
Absolutely. John, also, our Mr. Laurence Harvey, was also in the wonderful world of the Brothers Grimm as William, or Wilhelm, if you will, Grimm in the year 1962. And John, he starred alongside Frank Sinatra in The Manchurian Candidate in the same year as Raymond Shaw.
Yeah, he was the brainwashed almost assassin, if I remember that movie correctly.
I will take your word for it because I have not watched that version in a very long time.
Now, I didn't have a lot of his credits, Anthony, to be honest, I didn't really recognize. There were a lot of strong movies. I will mention that he made his directorial debut with a film called The Ceremony in 1963. And there's one TV movie that caught my attention, Dial M for Murder. He starred in an adaptation of the Dial M for Murder story for TV. But that's honestly all I really have for Mr. Clayton. He died, unfortunately, very young from cancer. I think a year after this episode, he passed. So a very promising career, unfortunately, cut short by a very aggressive disease, but solid body of work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, John. Absolutely. And speaking of solid bodies of work, we're moving on to Jack Kruschen?
Kruschen? I think it's Christian. Maybe it's like the Russian equivalent of Christian. I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
Don't take my word for it.
And in tonight's episode, of course, he is playing Tomlin Dudek, the murder victim. And he started way back in the year 1949, John. A lot of work. But how I'm going to start breaking it down is the things he was most known for, and then some just fun tidbits he was in throughout his acting career. And John, in 1953, he starred in The War of the Worlds as Salvatore.
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of did it in a very Godfather stereotype voice. Jack Kruschen tended to play the villain parts, or very stereotypical, like Italian or whatever parts. You know what I mean? It's like he got typecast a lot.
Eastern European. Let's cast Jack Kruschen.
Yep, pretty much. He can do the accent pretty well, and he's convincing. He's just a big barrel of a man. You just want to give a big hug.
Pretty much. He looks like such a jolly man.
Indeed.
And John, speaking of jolly men, actually, that's a bad transition, but we're going to work for it. In 1960, he starred in the movie The Apartment as Dr. Dreyfus.
Now, that earned him a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. And I have a little bit of fun trivia, Anthony.
Ooh.
Funny enough, when Peter Falk was up for his Best Supporting Actor in 1961 for the Abe Reles part in Murder Incorporated, he was up against Jack Kruschen.
Ooh, interesting.
They both lost, though.
Oh, well,
because but do you know who won that?
Who?
That award? Peter Ustinov for his work in Spartacus.
Oh my God.
Hi, Anthony. It's Tony Curtis. I'm Spartacus. I love you, Spartacus. I'm back in the new year, Spartacus.
Damn it. You just ruined my joke that I was saving for later a little further on. But we're going to just forget like this ever happened.
Okay, Spartacus.
But John, did you know that he also starred in a role in the movie that we should come along and ride on the last voyage? 1960 as Chief Engineer Pringle.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yes. Also starred
I
in
appreciate the dance, though.
Yeah, thank you. Starred in 1961's Lover Come Back as Dr. Linus Tyler. And that's what he is best known for. But some fun things he was in, John, that I want to bring to our loyal listeners' attention. He was in Abbott and Costello Go to Mars in 1953 as Harry.
How did I miss that one?
I don't know. Apparently, Abbott and Costello just wanted to go to Mars.
Okay, sure. Did they meet Frankenstein there, too?
Yeah, I guess.
Picnic?
Well, along with the Invisible Man and the Werewolf.
And John Carter.
John Carter, yep, all of them. John, he was also starred in episode 1957 as first airport robber in The Adventures of Superman, the first ever TV. Well, no. Well, yeah, I guess you can call it TV serial because the animated 1940s one was typically shown in cinema theaters.
Yeah, and there was a live-action film serial that preceded the Adventures of Superman on TV. But you are technically right. This is the first live-action TV show of Superman.
Absolutely. And speaking of firsts and other fun things, John, in the year 1958, only a year later, he starred as Jose Mordante in the TV series Zorro.
Zorro!
Absolutely.
I don't know why I did it that way. I'm sorry, folks.
It's okay. We're shaking the rust off. From 1951 to 1959 as multiple people. He also starred in Dragnet, the first first series of it.
He was also in The Untouchables and Route 66. And speaking of 66, Anthony.
Oh?
He was in a certain TV show starring me, TV's Batman, Adam West, where he played the villainous evil Ekdal opposite Ann Baxter's Zelda the Great.
It's Ivel.
Ivel Ekdal.
Actually, I don't know that, but I just wanted to throw a Young Frankenstein reference.
It's pronounced Frankenweivel.
But John, funny enough, this will not be the first and last time that we mention the Adventures of Superman and the 66 Batman, but that's a little tease for our audience a little bit later on.
Ooh.
And of course, how could we forget that from 1984 to 1989 in the TV show Webster, he played Papadopoulos.
Yeah, he was Webster's grandpa.
Yes, he was.
And he looks like a grandpa.
He absolutely 1,000% does. And he finished his acting career in the year 1997.
In the film Till There Was You.
Till there was you.
I hope that's how that goes. A couple other notable credits, Anthony, just that I picked up. He had parts in Hawaii Five-0, Rockford Files. Gotta interrupt John, making all the plans
to throw off his groove.
He's got to throw off that groove. 'Cause he hasn't podcasted in so long. Let's screw him up. It's all right. He was in episodes of Murder, She Wrote, Magnum P.I., Hotel, Remington Seal, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and a personal favorite show of yours, Matlock.
Of course. But John, now let's move on to Mazur Baruski, played by Lloyd Bochner tonight.
I think it's Bochner.
I'll take your word for it.
Another Canadian. He is one of two Canadians we have in this week's main cast, Anthony.
Oh.
Yeah, Jack Kruschen was from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Oh. So
yeah,
a couple of Canucks
don't you know?
chopping it up.
Yeah, a couple of Canucks up there talking about the maple syrup and the hockey up there by the Tim Hortons.
And Fargo. I don't know if that's the only other thing I can
Oh, yeah, betcha, yeah. I mean, that's Minnesota, but okay.
Close enough. Snow, ice, a football team they don't care about. Same thing. So, John, he started back in 1946, best known for his role in 1967's Point Blank as Frederick Carter. He starred in episodes of The $6 Million Man.
Going fast in slow motion.
As Gordon Shanks. 1983 as Walter Thornton in The Lonely Lady.
He was also, to go back to the 60s, Anthony, he was in a very famous role on The Twilight Zone in 1962, To Serve Man, where he played a cryptographer trying to decipher an alien text.
That's a great episode.
It's one of the classics. And he later spoofed that movie in a movie that he did later on, The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear.
As Baggett?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, I stopped trying to figure out those movies. They're not meant to be figured out, but it's just like, okay, whatever.
Pretty much. But John, now on to some fun things that you might recognize him from or know him from. He was with a certain actor, I think at the Chrysler Theater.
Oh, wait, hold on. I know it. Was it Bob Hope, everybody? Bob Hope presents the Chrysler Theater. Bob Hope, everybody. Bob Hope, bye-bye. Everybody, Bob Hope has left the building. Bye-bye.
Thank God. He was also in The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., as well as episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
He was in The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. before he was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I know.
Which is Amazing.
Amazing, man. He was also in episodes of Hogan's Heroes, Bewitched, Mission Impossible, the TV show, of course, your father's favorite show, Mannix.
He was also in another one of my father's favorite shows that is very hard to get now, The Green Hornet.
Wow, it is really hard to get now you mention it. Like, I can't find it anywhere.
Like, you have to bootleg it in order to watch it now.
Yeah,
well, so I think it's caught up in some weird rights issues, like the '66 Batman was for the longest time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe the Bruce Lee estate will put in some effort to get it out, so I can get my dad that box set.
Seriously. But John, he was also in episodes of Fantasy Island, Dynasty, The Love Boat, Murder, She Wrote, and John, Batman the Animated Series / The New Adventures of Batman and Robin,
where he played oftentimes corrupt Mayor Hamilton Hill. And I must say, seeing him in this episode, even though he has an accent, with that mustache and hearing that voice, he definitely could have been a live action Hamilton Hill at one point. But it's John, like they cast the perfect guy, to be honest.
Yeah, we can't also forget that in the same realm of Batman, he starred in 2001's video game adaptation of Batman, Vengeance, the one video game that was hard as hell.
I remember renting that thing from Blockbuster. That's how old I am, kids. And then our older listeners like, shut up.
What was that?
I don't know.
Why are they all chain smoking from, crib to now?
I don't know. I'm just doing my Harvey Firestein.
You sound like the pirate from SpongeBob.
Yarg. Where was I going with this? I don't know. I derailed the show.
I think we're moving on to Heidi Bruhl as Linda Robinson in tonight's episode.
Before I do, though, I noticed a couple credits on Mr. Bochner. He was in the live-action Spider-Man TV show, Anthony.
Was he? The Japanese Spider-Man TV show or like the actual...
The American one, starring Nicholas Hammond.
Yes.
That show is wild and not very good, but it's an interesting relic to see. He played villain Dr. Moon.
Oh.
He was also in Battlestar Galactica and the Superboy TV show. And a favorite show of my mom's when I was a kid, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
She's like, did you add a porn groove?
Yeah, I did actually. It works for the theme. That's not at all how the theme song went, but
it works for that show too, because I thought it was all hot and steamy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to Heidi Bruhl, Anthony.
Speaking of hot and steamy, she starred. Yeah, no kidding. She starred in a lot of German TV, John. That was most of her acting credits I have. So her most famous ones, and the only things I put of note, was her Eimenhof series of films, because there was a lot of them, including Wedding at Eimenhof and Holidays at Eimenhof.
Yeah, she was known for the character of Dolly in those Eimenhof films.
Hello, Dolly.
Hello, Dolly. I'm here from Austria.
Oh, no, I was going for Louis Armstrong. I know it was awful, but...
No, yeah, I'm here to fix it. Hello. Is Immelhof where the maids come from?
Oh, too soon.
Goodbye.
Oh, gosh.
She was also, outside of her acting career, she was known as a very successful recording artist. She's known for, in particular, for her participation in the 1963 Eurovision Song Contest, which has gotten a lot more popular since the internet existed. And all of those performances have essentially just become giant YouTube joke moments.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
She was also, movie-wise, Anthony, she played Annie Oakley in a TV movie called Annie, Get Your Gun. And this will bring you back, because you referenced this movie before on a previous episode. She had the female lead in the Clint Eastwood star, The Iger Sanction.
Oh, my God. Oh, call back. It was a call back. I need to
don't
watch that
remember
movie.
which episode.
I need to watch. No, it was the episode where Columbo had the great scene, but the rest of the movie was garbage. Where the epic gotcha moment where they were on the ski slope.
Oh, with Roddy McDowell.
Yes, with Roddy McDowell.
Short fuse. Funny enough, that's a great transition, Anthony, because this week our crew is a lot of returning members from Short Fuse.
John, are we skipping over Michael Fox as Dr. Benson?
I mean, does he even say anything?
He says like 2 lines, but John, let me tell you what he's known for so I can set you up for this good joke.
I mean, that's fair. I am a fan of good jokes.
So Michael Fox's Dr. Benson tonight's episode has a whole of like 2 lines, but I want to mention them anyway. He was best known for Whatever Happened to Baby Jane in 1962 as a TV commercial man. He was in Young Frankenstein.
It's pronounced Frankenstein.
Thank you. In 1974 as Helga's father. He was in the OG, The Longest Yard movie, Burt Reynolds' vehicle.
That's the limit of my Burt Reynolds, but
it was perfect. And he was
it though?
Yes, it was. He was also in 1987's Over the Top as Jim Olsen.
Hey, how you doing? I'm going over the top, you know.
You want to arm wrestle? I'll show you arm wrestling.
You want to wrestle? I'll do you arm wrestle. It wasn't me that started working with you.
Now, John, let me get into some of the fun stuff, as if that wasn't fun enough for our loyal listeners listening at home.
Ooh.
So, remember, speaking of callbacks to our previous episodes of Columbo Files?
Why, yes, indeed.
So, remember in one of our episodes where I talked about in like the mid-'80s, they tried to do a Casablanca TV show?
Yeah. Wasn't it something about Rick's Bar or something?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, John, little did I know that in 1959, WB had a first attempt to make the beloved movie into a TV show, and our actor who played Dr. Benson Knight, Michael Fox, played Sasha. Fun fact, the 1955 WB's Casablanca, actor Charles McGraw, who played Rick Blaine, starred in 1960's Spartacus as Marcellus.
Spartacus. I'm back, Spartacus. I'm back to say I love you, Spartacus.
This is what I tried to set you up for, but you crashed it earlier.
I'm sorry, Spartacus. I screwed it up for you, Spartacus. Will you still love me, Spartacus?
It gets me every time, man. Every time. Oh, gosh.
Oh, it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. He also had a couple roles in The Adventures of Superman in 1958, The Twilight Zone, Burke's Law, Perry Mason, and 66 Batman as Inspector Bosch / Leo Gore.
That's right. He was Leo Gore and/or Inspector Bosch.
He also had an episode or 2 of Lost of Space, John.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. Danger.
Oh, William. Oh, William.
Oh, the pain. William, the pain. Oh, shut up, you bubble-headed booby. Oh, the pain.
That's all I have for him, John. Now we can continue.
That's all I have on those impressions, too. So let's just move on delightfully. Now, our director this week is a returning director coming back from Short Fuse back in 1972, because we're in 1973 at this point. Edward M. Abrams. So I would point our listeners back to our episode on Short Fuse if you want a more detailed look at Edward M. Abrams' career. I don't have some of the stuff, but some of his stuff written down in front of me. But I do remember that he was an editor on Bloodsport, the Jean-Claude Van Damme classic.
Excellent. The movie where at like the climax he goes blind, but through the power of karate he like wins the fight somehow.
That's why he's the Muscles from Brussels.
Oh my God.
Now, composer-wise, Anthony, we have an old face returning. Dick De Benedictis is returned.
Yeah.
One of his many Columbo credits, and he, at this point, is an all-star for the Columbo team, as far as I'm concerned. Anthony, I think you'd agree.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, writing this week is, once again, another returning member, Mr. Jackson Gillis, who in our Columbo time frame has written Suitable for Framing, Short Fuse, Dagger of the Mind, which is not one of our personal favorites, because Shakespeare's wasted in that show. No. I don't know why I did that.
I mean, I agree, but where was that?
I just wanted to do a British Liberace. I wish my brother George was here.
Where's this coming from?
I don't know. I'm just going off instinct. Oh boy, we're gonna have to cut that one out.
Limited Liberace.
All I can do is just, I wish my brother George was here, and that's it.
I don't even know if that's an accurate.
Me neither. I think I just picked that up from freaking Looney Tunes or something.
I got nothing more to say.
I got nothing more to say either, except this last episode that Jackson Gillis wrote wasn't this season. It was a highlight for us, Requiem for a Falling Star starring Ann Baxter. This week, Jackson gets the teleplay credit, and the story credit goes to Jackson Gillis and Levinson and Link, who, Anthony, I think we should also take the opportunity to pay tribute to one of our deceased founders of Columbo, Richard Levinson, did not die. He was already dead. William Link passed right at the tail end of 2020. Had a very long life of, I believe, somewhere in his 80s.
Yeah.
I am just vamping for time while I do a quick Google search. William Link died December 27th, 2020. Among his credits beyond Columbo were his partnership were with Levinson and Link, The Gun, My Sweet Charlie, the Hindenburg feature film, the Roller Coaster feature film, various Broadway shows, stuff in the 90s, films in the 90s, but
overall, just a huge bucket of win, man.
Yeah, I'm just at this point, I'm just kind of rambling, but at 87, it's a huge bucket of win. It's a long celebrated life. And Columbo honestly has gotten such a big resurgence. So I hope he was aware of how popular the show had gotten again, and that he and his partner and Peter Falk were getting their just desserts, even though they had gotten plenty at the time. So to William Link, we give you a hearty Ludic salute from the Ludic Lounge and the Columbo Files. Thank you, sir. You will be missed.
And with that, John, I think it's time for us to get into tonight's episode, The Most Dangerous Match. So, John, we open up in an acid trip.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of this. It's a giant, we see Clayton just roaming around this giant chessboard, and there's a weird Instagram filter on top of the camera. That's the only way I can describe it. It's an odd choice. It's like it's multiple images of Clayton just roaming around this chessboard. A lot of sound effects shoe leather, but it's good sound effects shoe leather. Yeah, something like that. Though, Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have a fear of seizures from this freaking opening? Because
Yes.
I thought I did for a minute.
Yes.
I could have sworn I was just like, oh, this is not going to go well.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like a worse. So a worse version of the scene from the first Harry Potter film where they're playing wizard's chess. But like the live action, it was like a way worse version than that.
Yeah, I mean, and in the purpose behind this scene is all about to just focus on Clayton's insecurity about this upcoming chess match. That's why we see this old man in this military uniform smiling down at him and to be honest,
man,
I thought it was hilarious.
It was just it looked like Captain Crunch was just looking down upon this poor guy.
I know, but it's like the Soviet Captain Crunch.
Comrade Crunch.
Comrade Crunch, yeah. Because he says, like, would you like the roof of your mouth cut open? It's like, try Comrade Crunch.
And the fall of capitalism while you're at it.
I know. Here's some vodka.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing at my own joke. I know, but that was just too damn funny.
Take it where you can get it. So Clayton falls out of bed, at the end of this, dream sequence. And he puts in a hearing aid. It turns out, we'll learn this properly later, but he is actually deaf. He must have lost his hearing, much later in life because he can speak without any issues.
Yeah, I found that to be quite interesting as well. But, I mean, for 1970s television, I'm not going to... There's much more things to argue about and for.
Yeah, but it's just sign of the times, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. So he is coming out of an elevator, and we see him being interviewed by a whole lot of news personnel asking him about this upcoming chess match.
Because context, this is post Bobby Fischer's world famous chess match with a Soviet grandmaster. But I think that chess match came a year before this. So chess was very much a big popular thing in the mind's eye at the time. The game of the century, that's what it was. Or no. Boris Spassky. That's what it was. He played Boris Spassky in 1972. Anyway, that's besides the point.
But what is not besides the point, John, is he's giving off these interviews and then the press leaves him alone, which is amazing by today's standards. And he's just sitting there, and then we have this weird spy scene where he's like checking out his competition and his ex-fiance that we learned through journalistic exposition.
Yeah, and like we barely get any real concrete stuff with those two as a ex-couple, I feel. Because like for one thing, I will say this. I wish they had just gotten rid of his freaking sideburns because they're kind of disgusting.
I agree.
It's a little bit disgusting.
His like chest mullet he's got going on.
I called it low rent Clint Eastwood hair and face because he feels like a low rent Clint Eastwood at times.
I can't even give him that, man.
Fair. But a couple of things, once Tomlin Dudek comes out of the elevator and is bombarded by the press, he and his entourage go into like this little, gift shop. And we learn that Dudek came out of retirement to play against Clayton in chess, which is very interesting. So we're trying to figure out, why is he coming out of retirement? Why Clayton? What's the purpose? Linda, his ex-fiance, directly calls Clayton despicable. So we don't really know what he has done to earn him that ranking in her life, but it's bad if she's calling him that. Dudek dismisses all of his entourage, tells everybody to take the night off, and then he literally just like, you're right, Anthony. He's like this odd spy sequence where Clayton is watching Dudek from the receptionist desk while badly reading a brochure. Dudek is making sure all of his entourage is missing so he can go out. And then it's a small chase sequence in chase shoe leather.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like, are they going to take each other out, or are they going to take each other out? You know what I mean? Just the way they're looking at one another.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Whatever floats your boat. We're all queens, I guess, on the
Brings
chessboard
a
of
whole new
life.
meaning to the word checkmate.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord.
No, but I understand your confusion.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't even think about it. So Clayton follows Dudek. I will say that the music here is pretty good, but I think De Benedictis is cribbing from himself in this particular sequence. Feels like he's just riffing off of an earlier episode. I'm not 100% sure. That changes later on. But we come into this restaurant that we later learn is a French restaurant.
Yeah, I guess because
escargot. Like Dudek apparently likes escargot specifically. As a man who's never had escargot, I don't know why, but I imagine if you have your tastes, you have your tastes.
I guess.
So Dudek and Clayton have a conversation. They have a meal and a conversation, Anthony.
Yeah, they're just we come to find out through just fun general exposition here that Clayton's ex-fiance, who we find out name is Linda Robinson, the gal who was accompanying Mr. Dudek down the elevator and all that fun stuff, the one that obviously hates Clayton. She's the one that set up this match, John.
Yeah, and she has known Dudek her entire life. He is an old family friend to her mother. And during the conversation, Clayton makes it known that Dudek is known for playing psychological games. Now, I think that this might be a premature question to ask, but Anthony, how much do you think Dudek is actually screwing with Clayton, and how much is it him just being a nice guy?
I think it's just him being a nice guy, honestly. Like, from the vibe I'm getting from him, he's just this old jolly dude who's coming out of retirement, and he's just like taking pity on this guy because this guy he sees across the way from him is just this uptight, strung out looking chess expert, quote unquote.
Yeah, and we learn a little bit more about why Dudek is doing what he's doing. He's on a special diet. We later learn he's diabetic, but he's supposed to be on a very regimented, specific list of food.
Yeah, and that does not show from his frame, to be quite fair.
No, and honestly, he reminds me of my dad being a little bit stubborn on what he wants to eat, when he probably shouldn't. But he likes to go out and go get himself food that he likes. And his trainer is concerned that he's not staying focused, but Dudek is just dismissive. And then the two of them start playing chess, Anthony.
Just an impromptu game of chess because, again, for some reason, Clayton is feeling threatened by Dudek putting out a salt shaker, just moving it, and Clayton thinks he's playing psychological warfare, so they do an impromptu game of chess, and it goes on for quite a while, John.
Because they close down the restaurant. Yes. They're there that long.
The poor shop owner just wants to close his damn business and go home to his wife and kids, but these chess bastards have to play their game, John.
The restaurant owner is at his wits' end. Dudek makes a move, which puts Clayton in check, and that throws Clayton off the deep end, and he resigns and they leave, and then they sneak into the hotel because Dudek doesn't want to go back to his room. He doesn't want to be put to bed like a child.
Yeah, so
they sneak in through the back by the trash, and we get a focus on the trash compactor, which at this point I feel is like, oh, they're leaning towards that as the murder weapon, huh?
Yeah. It was like ham-fisted, like, foreshadowing.
Or, I think it's red herring foreshadowing. I think you're right on the foreshadowing, but it's definitely just like, it's there to kind of give you, vibes, you know? Oh, boy. What?
If we ever have merchandise, one of them's got to be a shirt that just says, vibes, you know what I mean?
Oh, vibes.
Pretty much. But, John.
Yes, Anthony.
Through this back exit, they go into Clayton's room.
Yeah, and this is where we meet Borowski, Lloyd Bochner, very much, and I had him in my notes. He's very much looking like his Batman the Animated Series character, which was unnerving for seeing him in real life for the first time. So Borowski is calling on Clayton in the evening because he's looking for Dudek. He doesn't know where Dudek is. Dudek's not in his room. Nobody knows where he is. And I gotta say, I really like Lloyd Bochner's accent here. It feels like a very good Eastern European accent. Yeah,
it definitely feels like, again, they never necessarily say what country they're from, but we know that based off the accent stuff, it's somewhere in the Eastern Bloc. But yeah, again, bully to him for his accent, at least in this particular scene. You can kind of tell it falls off further down the episode.
A little bit, yeah, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony, you were right. Dudek is hiding in Clayton's room, and they're playing chess again.
But again, it's giving off like secret lovers vibes. Like Clayton's in a bathrobe. Like it's just an interesting whole mix up between these two characters.
I mean, I think if the show had been made in more, modern day with, the world we live in that has a little bit more broader sensibilities, maybe that probably would have made it in. But I think, you're making me think of something that Clayton says later on, in that, they're both addicts.
Yeah,
when it comes to chess, and this is in a period where a show like The Queen's Gambit, which is based on a novel by a recovering alcoholic about an addict who is a chess genius. It's interesting to see how they're just kind of so withdrawn into their obsession on this game that they are just forsaking so many other things about their life and health.
And that's where the kind of nice juxtaposition we get between Clayton and Dudek we get is because Dudek is more jolly. He's older. He's more experienced. And the whole time he's like, oh, I thought younger people had more things to worry about than chess, like falling in love and things like that. And you can tell he's just more wise that, yes, he's an addict when it comes to the game, but he also understands there's a bigger world with bigger sensibilities out there. Juxtapose against Clayton, who is literally obsessed with the game to the point where he's having odd LSD tripping dreams about it.
It's all stuck in his insecurities, and you really get that in this conversation, in this chess match, where Dudek does a brutal analysis and breakdown on Clayton's moves and how he would respond and how badly Clayton would lose.
Oh yeah.
And and you can, what I appreciate about the Laurence Harvey's performance here is that I think Clayton is always kind of on edge. He just manages it well when he's around certain types of people, like the crowds or the press. But when he's on his own, the cracks are very much there. And here the cracks just start getting just larger and larger. Yeah. And I do appreciate that there's a subtlety in how much he's freaking out. And then when Dudek leaves, you get that full breakdown.
Oh yeah. To the point where he loses his mind and we have more of an acid trip kind of a thing. And he throws his earpiece, his hearing aid, if you will, across the room, breaking it.
Yeah. And I really appreciated how they blocked that scene with the split diopter thing and just having him on one side and then that LSD effect on the other, just showing how kind of rattled he is by this.
Now, John, you'll have to remind me, was there just dead silence here, or was there a little bit of sound? Because I my mind's eye and my memory core, I feel like it was dead. He pulled it out of his ear and it was dead silence. We just looked at Clayton, who is sitting there yelling into the silence because of his deafness.
I think that happens when he pulls his hearing aid out and throws it away. Okay.
Because the reason I'm bringing that up is because I thought it was a genius move, a genius scene to have that, just the dead silence, because it really brought out the suffering that Clayton's going through in his addiction in this game and his incompetencies, because he's just manic to the point where just his silent scream. And again, it reminded me of
Death Lends a Hand with Robert Culp.
Robert Culp, yes, thank you. It reminded me a lot of that, just in that I appreciated from that particular moment.
And now that you mention it, it's a little similar to what Spielberg did in Murder by the Book with that second murder by Jack Cassidy, where the sound completely cuts off there. So very, very comparable. I agree. This is one of the highlights of this episode. It's a great performance by Laurence Harvey. And then we transition to Columbo. So the murder has still yet to happen. We don't know when the murder's happening. Columbo is at the vet. Dog's got some problems. And I got to say, I love the transition from we're playing chess and we're doing checkers.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. It was perfect. It was spot on. And the fact that he's playing it with his veterinarian, who I should have looked up this character, but I love him so much.
Yeah, I think... I know in the original run he comes back a little bit. I think this might be his last performance, but we might have to double check in next episode. Just check in on that one. Apparently, Dog had some problems with his ear. Looks like he had a foxtail in his ear, but Columbo brought him in just to be safe because he had no idea what was going on. And we also learned through Columbo talking to the vet, Columbo got called in on a disappearance. Apparently, some big shot chess grandmaster went missing, and nobody knows where he was. But then they found him. So, false alarm. He went bowling, apparently.
Yeah, apparently that's the line he was going with. And I love the chemistry between Columbo and I just call him Doc because that's all Columbo gives us. The chemistry there, how Peter Falk in his mastery is just sitting there like, of course, of all things, the pilot light goes out. I don't even know what a pilot light is. I had this thing go wrong and now this with Dog. I feel like everything... something along the lines of, I feel like the universe is just against me as soon as my wife leaves the house.
I know. It was just waiting for everything to go wrong the moment she left. How does he not know that Dog is snoring?
Oh, I mean, it was ham-fisted, but I appreciated it so much, John. He's just like, look, that sound right there. And Doc's like, yeah, he's snoring, man. And that's how they end that scene.
I know. It's just like, I think if you were trimming the fat, you might not have needed this scene, but I do like the kind of just the humanization of Columbo a little bit. And
exactly.
To be honest, Peter Falk is just doing his thing. It's effortless for him at this point. To be honest, I don't think this is his strongest performance as Columbo. I think like that's something in like A Stitch in Crime you get, but I feel like he's at his smoothest here. Like, this is him with Columbo as a glove, Yeah,
exactly. And then as soon as we're done with this scene, John, it pans back to Clayton making a dastardly plan where he is in his hotel room. We're seeing visions running through his LSD dream about the trash chute, about things like that.
And Comrade Crunch.
Where he calls Dudek into panic, essentially, and we're just getting it from Dudek's perspective here, and Dudek is essentially...
Well, you missed the fact that he calls an airline prior to calling Dudek.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the whole... Yes, he's setting a plan for a trip to Mexico City using Dudek's name in an awful accent.
An awful accent. And then he calls Dudek saying something, pretending to be in some kind of panic. And Dudek is very concerned.
Yeah.
And I got to say, it's, it endeared me to him even more. Honestly, I think this is one of the more likable victims we've gotten at this point. Now with Dudek leaving his room to go find Clayton takes the opportunity to break into Dudek's hotel room. A lot of spycraft going on here by just taping the doors open.
Yeah.
I got to say the music's really good here.
Yeah. Oh, I'll give the music a lot of credit, but again, it feels, I don't know if they were trying to, again, just do parallels of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, but again, I found it hard to believe that Clayton, as just a chess master, knows how to just, oh yes, let me tape the locks, let me go in and do the spy baloney.
Well, Anthony, I could tell you why. This is street chess. Do you want to know what happens in street chess?
What happens in street chess, Sean?
There are no rules in street chess. Anything can happen.
Yes.
And that's how he knows how to tape the doors. It's like I'm gonna win. I'm gonna get my win no matter what. So I'll tape this shit. I'll do dirty ass, street break-ins. Oh boy. So beyond the music, which is really good, it's a very ominous, very great setup. De Benedictis is doing really good stuff here at this point. What Clayton is doing in this room is packing up a travel bag for Dudek to make it look like Dudek left. So he's just grabbing shit left and right. He grabs some stationery. He also takes off the hearing aid, and at this point, I thought it was broken, or he was pretending it was broken. Turns out it might have actually been broken.
Right.
And when he meets Dudek, he's very distraught and talking about this woman that he had a fling with, and now she's like, I'm pregnant and I can't, we're supposed to be together forever, and Clayton can't handle it.
Oh, you see, I didn't even catch the pregnant part. He was so manic that he wasn't even doing complete sentences that I could comprehensibly understand.
It was rough.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just like he could have dialed it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
But essentially, and this speaks to the nature of Dudek just being why I think he's just being a good dude overall. And it's not necessarily like psychological warfare. Because again, he meets Clayton in the basement. Clayton asks him to write a love note in his language because the girl he's in love with, quote unquote, is from the old country. And Dudek's like, oh, okay, yeah, man, I guess I'll help you with that. When in all rights, he'd just be like, no, dude, no, kick rocks, man. Like, I'll see you at the chess match.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it speaks a lot to Dudek's character in that he met an adversary inadvertently and actually came to appreciate him as a person, or was trying to, because I guess he probably saw some kind of kinship because they both have this addiction to chess. And so just because, and all of this happens to him just because Clayton can't handle his insecurity.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of him not being able to handle his insecurity, I mean, he's writing the love note's done, and all of a sudden just Clayton bull rushes him and throws him down the trash chute.
Now, just to be clear on this before we move on, he's not wearing his hearing aid, but we will aid you in hearing what happens next when we get to Act 2. Penis.
So, John, we open in Act 2 with... At a point... So, John, we open in Act 2 with Clayton at the match, but there's no Dudek.
Yeah, and we just hear the ticking clock, and everybody just mumbling. Is just like, well, what's going on? What's happening? Why isn't he here? Blah, 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 blah,
Oh,
blah,
and
blah,
Clayton throws up the charm, and he stands up and addresses the crowd. Folks, if I'm not upset with Dudek being 20 minutes late, then why should you all?
Come, I'll play you. I'll play whoever wants to come. Come on. You know, that kind of crap. So he's just hamming it up for the crowd to kind of kill time and establish his alibi. Columbo arrives at the hotel, and an ambulance leaves. So with that, and the sirens are going, we know Dudek's not dead.
Right.
So he's taken to the hospital. Apparently he slipped and fell into a garbage disposal.
Yes. So Columbo and Officer Exposition enter the
Sergeant
basement.
Exposition.
Sergeant Exposition. I'm sorry. That is right. We have to get his rank up there. They enter there, and they're met with a bunch of workers, a bunch of other officers, and they explain that, again, from what it looks like, Dudek was running and trying to escape through the back entrance to hide his... Well, we don't know why at this point, but he was just trying to run away and not show up for the chess match.
Yeah, Columbo learns that Dudek is leaving. He had a cab waiting for him. The cab was called for. He was going to be taken to the airport. Nobody, Columbo can't figure out why is he leaving. What purpose does he have in leaving? Also, how did the officer know how to turn on that garbage disposal?
I don't know. Honestly,
it's like Sergeant Exposition. He knows everything.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it, man. It's just Sergeant Exposition. He's the champ.
Now, speaking of the champs, we got Lloyd Bochner coming in, and Borowski is told what happens, and he doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe it at all.
No, not at all.
He says that there was no way stress would have made him quit. He would have been fine. He's handled it before. It's not because of stress that he was leaving. Plus, he has diabetes. He has a lot of medical issues that he has to be very regimented about.
Exactly.
And Linda adds to Borowski's argument. It's like she's known him her entire life. He would not have run. He wouldn't have run from a challenge.
Yeah, and she goes on to explain, like, look, he hasn't been nervous through this entire thing. If anything, he's confident, and he has been in a great mood. There's no reason at the last minute he would turn tail and run, until the chess organizer shows up to the room with Clayton with a letter.
Yeah, and it turns out this letter is Dudek's stationery. It's an envelope. It's in his handwriting. Not signed, though, funny enough. Save that for later. Yeah, he comes with this message. Everybody's reading it, and it's just like, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. You know, just all of these trite,
I'm
very
ashamed, yeah.
And they're very generic, wouldn't you say? It's just like it's a vague message. You don't know exactly what it applies to.
Yeah.
It could really apply to anything. And then Clayton comes in and starts saying, oh, it must have been about the chess match.
Oh, the poor, what do you say? The poor troubled fool or something like that. He lays it on thick with.
Methinks he's projecting.
Yeah, exactly. So Clayton starts giving his sympathies to Borowski and everyone else. And then that's when Columbo hits him with, like, no, he's not dead.
No, yeah, he's still alive. Why do you assume that? It's like, well, I just assumed based off of everybody's reaction that he was dead. I had no idea.
I will give him credit at that point in that particular moment, because he took the news on the chin like a champ, and he didn't, to me, show any slippage like we've seen in episodes of Columbo Pass.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think there was like a minor slip, like right at the beginning of Columbo saying, well, why do you assume that?
Yeah.
But
I feel like he played it off because he's like, well, everybody who was there in the room with me, we just assumed with the ambulance and all that other stuff, we just assumed he was dead.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think Columbo assumes or presumes that he might be a suspect. Yeah, at this point, there's not enough information. But I think that might be like, just like, save it for later. He might be important.
Yeah, agreed.
Later on in that scene, Columbo is talking to Borowski with Dudek's shirt. Apparently, it reeks of garlic.
Yep. And he's asking Borowski that he's going to have his men do some tests on it, run some tests on it. And all time, Borowski's in his face, like just giving Columbo the business until he figures out Columbo's angle.
Garlic. What is this garlic?
Spice.
Oh, capitalism. Now, Anthony, garlic was permissible under Dudek's diet, but it's not on his authorized list. So where does the garlic come from?
Exactly.
That's the question Columbo now has. Additionally, we have to talk about the suitcase, the travel case.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, what does Tomlin and Dudek wear, Anthony? Specifically, what does he have in his mouth?
False teeth.
Yeah, he has dentures.
Oh, yeah.
Funny enough. And there's no denture-related toiletries in the bag. There's a toothbrush, but it's for...
But, John, it's for Dr. Benson in his one of two lines in tonight's episode.
I know, right? Yeah, so... And Dr. Benson doesn't have dentures, so it's a regular old toothbrush.
Yep.
So, I appreciate the putting two and two together moment that Borowski has, where it's just like, then... if that's his toothbrush, that means Dudek didn't pack this bag.
Yep.
And this wasn't an accident. It was an attempted murder.
Yeah. And as soon as Borowski puts that two and two together, again, all the credit in the world to Lloyd Bochner in that, because again, just it's like that biggest of aha moments, and Columbo's giving him the whole like, yeah, man, that's what I'm trying to tell you this whole time, but you're, giving me so much grief over it.
It's one of the better aha moments, I'll say, because we've gotten some hand-fisted ones. This one feels like, oh, he made the conclusion himself, and it was pretty easy to say once he got the evidence.
Oh, and then he became Columbo's best friend.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of best friends, our best friend, Tomlin Dudek, is not doing too good, Anthony.
No, he's not. He's going in and out of surgery. It's all bad, John. It's all bad.
It is all of the bad. So Linda shows up with a list of medicines because he has to have these injections to deal with his diabetes.
Because we are now at the hospital, which we forgot to mention that the scene transitions to.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. I am just so excited to be back on talking about Columbo. I forgot. Now, Linda and Clayton start having a conversation about meeting Dudek, how Clayton met Dudek specifically. And you gotta love this narcissistic ass because Clayton starts making it all, he's turning the story to make him look fantastic. It's like he met with Dudek. He rattled Dudek because he was so freaking good at chess, man.
And honestly, if he took the time to just think about that alibi he's giving Linda and just said, like, yeah, Dudek won this restaurant. If he would have just given Dudek the credit and said, yeah, he won this temporary game, this impromptu street chess game, he won it. And again, I don't know. He won it. I think it would have, by far, John, given him much more credibility as far as the alibi.
But to be honest, I think that only really would have worked if we had more with his relationship with Linda and it being more about a thing where he's trying to show her he's actually human.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the part I don't understand, John. Like, they really just toss in, it feels like the last moment, that these two were ex-lovers and fiancés, essentially getting ready to be married, but they don't really give it credence. They don't really explain why it went bad, why it went south. Essentially, it's just that Clayton's an asshole, and that's why they broke up.
I mean, to be fair, sometimes that's all you need, but it's just the performances here and the nature of the script just don't give us anything. We're not giving a past with them. We're not given any really heated moments outside of the fact that Linda really doesn't care for him. It's window dressing. That's all it feels like.
I mean, I would have honestly loved an interaction between Clayton and Linda saying, like, well, you hate me so much, you had to get this guy to beat me. You had to get this grandmaster. And maybe, like, that's the reasoning behind Linda getting Dudek out of retirement and having the chess match and throwing a little bit of that kind of cynicism or a little bit of sass in it. I feel like that would have been a much stronger, even if the relationship was just garbage and that's why she broke it off, doing something like that just to make sure it's like, oh yeah, this relationship was just a toxic relationship. It would have made it feel more real in my eyes.
Yeah, it would have we just needed that fleshing out, and we didn't get that there. But what we do get here is Clayton reading the medicine list that Linda has. And then when their conversation is done, and I got to say, it looks like he's in a tweed tuxedo.
Yeah, man. That's
super 70s.
Man.
Earthy tones, man. It's just ridiculous.
Yet, I still kind of want one.
I mean, fair. That's a reluctant fair, but fair. Now, Clayton apparently is writing down that list by memory. And in comes Columbo. And I got to say, I love this lumbering walk that he does, where it's just like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you.
Yep.
It just felt fun.
It's like swagger, as the kids would say now. It's just drip. It's him just flaunting all up in Clayton's business, trying to catch him in the act.
Now, do you think it's also in part to him being considerate to a deaf man and trying to be, very very obvious and telling him, "Hey, I'm coming to talk to you"?
I never thought of that, to be honest with you, John.
That was something that popped in my head. It's like, is this Peter Falk just having a laugh for himself, or is it Columbo being considerate of a deaf man?
You know what? I'm going to go with the latter. I'm going to think it's just Columbo being considerate of a deaf man.
Now, Anthony, would you like some ice cream?
Ooh, is it Mr. Dingaling ice cream?
Oh, Jesus. Well, the Candyman can give you some Dingaling ice cream. Too much on the nose? I don't know.
The Candyman can.
The Candyman can, man.
Just like Columbo can really start putting in the screws to Clayton, John.
Yeah, so Columbo's bothered by something, as always, and he wants to pick Clayton's brain for a couple things. One, he's using it as an excuse to also talk about chess, which I think Columbo is attempting to just try and figure out, how can I get on this guy's good side? Does it require chess? How much do I need to talk to him about chess? So Columbo's really confused about the note, Anthony.
Yeah.
Everything else is on special stationery, Dudek's particular stationery, except for the note itself.
Yep.
The note itself is on plain paper.
Plain paper, and there wasn't any, writing pads in the hotel room that Columbo could find at all.
Yeah, and Columbo starts talking about the suitcase and how some of that stuff clearly isn't Dudek's, which Clayton then dismisses. Yeah, it could happen. A bellboy could have done it, which is just like, really? That's your argument? That feels like a stretch.
Yeah. If anything, you would argue just he was in a panic, so he just started grabbing stuff. Like
that would have been, that would have been the better argument, but I guess a chess grandmaster isn't as smart as he thinks he is.
Yeah. So ultimately, he gets in the car with Columbo because Columbo asks him what he would do for Mr. Dingaling Bar. And
after cock blocking a cab ride.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time.
Big time.
So
I mean, this is almost borderline kidnapping.
Yeah, I know Columbo likes to get these guys in their corner and like really start grilling them, but I was like, at some point, I'm like, dude, Columbo, you kind of should just let him go and maybe try a different approach.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a smidgers, just a wee bit smidger.
Yeah, there was not a lot of, again, speaking of some of the other Columbo episodes in our past, John, it's just there wasn't really a lot of finesse here. It was more Columbo just brute hammering to get him into the car to take him to the restaurant.
At least at this stage, I think there's a little bit more finesse later on in the conversation between Clayton and Columbo. But at this stage of Columbo trying to get him being Clayton, into a position to talk, it's very heavy-handed. Speaking of heavy-handed, Clayton starts laying on his story for his alibi. He starts saying that he was, he was late. Clayton was late to the game. But his explanation for that was that, he likes to take a walk before the game. And because he broke the transistor in his hearing aid, he had to go to the pharmacy or wherever you get those to get one.
Right.
And at that point, when he tells Columbo that he had this the hearing aid fixed, Columbo starts humming.
Yeah.
It's just like, are you being a dick right now, Columbo?
I think he was trying to test to see if the hearing aid was actually fixed or something. Like, I don't know what his thought process was, but yeah, like Columbo came off as a dick to a guy with disabilities, man.
Yeah, this scene isn't the most graceful, to be quite frank. Now Columbo's also wondering, why didn't he sign the letter? Because it's a vague letter. What is it about, really?
Yeah, exactly.
It could apply to anything.
There wasn't a mention of chess. There wasn't a mention of anything.
Nothing.
And John, I have a question for you.
Yes, Anthony.
Are you hungry?
A little bit, yeah. Why?
Oh, well, because I'm starving myself. So there's a nice little restaurant here, and since I kind of missed the hotel exit rampway, why don't we go to this restaurant down the road? I hear they got great snails.
Do they have sausage?
No, but they have chili.
Okay. They got crackers in that chili?
Ooh, that cost extra.
So does
but
the
it's
kitchen.
not as good as Bert's chili.
No. I miss Bert. Now, this is, of course, the French restaurant that Dudek and Clayton had their tete-a-tete via the chessboard at, and Columbo knows this. He's playing along like he doesn't.
I really appreciate this scene for multiple facets of it, John, because again, Columbo is just playing the like, oh, this just so happens to be a restaurant, but Clayton already picks up on his bullshit here, and so he calls the maitre d' and is like, oh, was the picture good that this man gave you to describe me?
Oui, monsieur.
Like, and I love his snark here, not the maitre d', but Clayton's snark, because again, Clayton sees through him, calls Columbo on his crap, and it's just like, this is a waste of time. I called you on all of this crap. We're done here.
But I will say that even though Clayton is being the smooth talker, crap caller here, Columbo is a cold-blooded stare downer here. Honestly, and that's what elevates the scene, is that Peter Falk plays Columbo so damn cool here, and just calm and focused.
Yep.
It is very much it is a chess game with words in a sense.
Oh, and absolutely. And I love that Columbo doesn't let him get the last word, and he is just playing it calm, cool, and collected, because Clayton's done. He's walking out of the restaurant because he's like, and said something along the lines of, well, if you have no further questions, Columbo, and like starts to walk off. Columbo's like, hey, come here. I got another question. Come here.
I got some stuff. Like Dudek's personal chess set. It's a handmade chess set. You wouldn't leave something like that behind, but he did.
Yeah.
He would have packed, if Dudek was packing his thing, he would have packed it, but the murderer didn't do it. And now Columbo's asking, Clayton, why tell Linda that you met Dudek here, but not us? And then we get a description by the waiter, the maitre d', saying, he remembers them. He remembers them playing the game, but he has no idea what they were doing or who won.
Yeah.
To which Clayton then is further feeding his narcissism by saying he won.
Yeah. And again, like, you could have just came off, even if you said Dudek would have won, you could just like, well, it was kind of a tie. We were getting tired, so we decided to leave it.
It was street chess. Doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, and what's funny is that Columbo catches him in a lie where, with going back to the chess set, Clayton says he always, a grandmaster at their levels would always carry a chess set, and he pulls out his own. He always has it, except for the night he met Dudek.
Yep. Funny how people are just losing chess sets left and right.
Even though you just said that you carry it with you all the time.
Yeah. Kind of funny, huh?
I know. Interesting that. What's also kind of funny, Anthony, is we got our first page of the series.
Yes, we do, John. We absolutely do. And it took me by surprise. I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, pager? Whoa, 70s had pagers?
I know. For the younger listeners at home, a pager was essentially a text message saying, please call this number. You have a person waiting for you.
Yeah. And apparently, and again, they were a thing of like the 90s, but I didn't know they had them all the way back in 1974.
Oh, I think they were pretty standard in the 80s, if I recall. But
see, that I don't recall, unfortunately. I remember them being prominent and prevalent in the 90s, but I didn't know before that time.
To be honest, I just pretend that I lived those decades, even though I never did.
That is fair.
Now, where does Columbo get this page from, Anthony?
Well, we're led to assume, and Clayton's led to assume, that it's from the hospital, John.
Yeah. Apparently, whoever Columbo's talking to the doctor about, they made it through just fine. They're up and walking. It's okay. And then we learn it's dog. Yeah. It's the vet calling Columbo saying, "Hey, dog's okay."
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that fake out. It's a great fake out.
Yes, it's a great fake out. And you could tell because Columbo was staring at Clayton the entire time. And I think Columbo was trying to read his body language, which is why he kind of did the fake out there.
I absolutely agree. I think while Clayton accuses Dudek of playing psychological games, in reality, it's Columbo that's doing it.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to see what reaction he can get out of Clayton in regard to this, hospital call with air quotes. But we'll see what happens with the actual events in the hospital when we get into our final act, Act 3.
Act 3, John, opens with us going to the hospital. Or is it the hotel?
Well, Anthony, I think you picked up on a problem that you and I have had with this episode, in that we cannot tell this hospital and this hotel apart from each other.
Yeah, the set that was used here, again, from the lobby of the hospital to the lobby of the hotel, it had to have been the same building with the same like awful green wallpaper or paint or whatever it is. Because I again had the damnedest time trying to figure out if we're in a lobby of the hospital or a lobby of the actual hotel.
Yeah, I think like the hospital itself is a set, but I feel like this hotel is an actual lobby, and maybe the same for the hotel rooms, but I'm not sure. But that's besides the point. We open at the hotel, from according to my notes, and Columbo gets a call and has come over to the hotel to tell Clayton that Dudek is out of surgery and is stable. And we also learn here that Clayton has an eidetic memory. And for those folks at home that don't know what an eidetic memory is, that is the technical term for a photographic memory. So Clayton can look at something very, very briefly and immediately retain the majority of the knowledge, if not all of the knowledge, in his brain for almost instant access, which makes it great for chess, because he can remember moves very, very well. But it also makes it very convenient for him to pay attention to, medicine lists.
Yeah, and the thing is that Columbo's not even fishing for his memory being eidetic at all. He's really not. It's Clayton who just so happens to volunteer that information because he's bragging about, that was the first words that you ever said to me or that were ever written to me on your behalf, Columbo. He's just flexing on Columbo here.
Yeah, I think Columbo was there to also confirm that Clayton's alibi checked out, because he did get that transistor. He was seen by the staff there, and the conversation then goes to Dudek's chess journal, which had a record of every single chess game he'd ever played. And the last game was that game with Clayton in the restaurant. And Columbo catches the discrepancy here. There is a discrepancy. I wonder, did you catch the discrepancy, Anthony?
Yeah, the discrepancy in the journal was that white was put out first.
Yes, and that black resigned.
Yes. And if we remember back to the actual scene, it was Dudek who put out the salt first, hence him being white.
And with Pepper being black, being played by Clayton. Now, in the conversation with Columbo in the French restaurant, Clayton made it seem like he was playing white and Dudek was playing black.
Exactly.
Now, if that's the case, the problem here, though, is that Dudek's journal doesn't give names. So we have no idea what the accuracy is here. But
because boy, wouldn't that just been some shit if there was some names? Because then Clayton is just done for, and you could tell because Clayton was sweating this entire time.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the discrepancy here is that Columbo gets the feeling that who was playing what color isn't exactly right.
Yeah,
and Clayton is getting him kind of confused. So it's just like, let's hound him and see what happens. Now Clayton goes back upstairs and is breaking back into Dudek's hotel room.
Because, he's a professional chess player and also a spy on the side, apparently.
I mean, who came from the Soviet bloc? I don't know. They're both kind of spy crafty, maybe. I don't know. So Dudek's medicine is still in the hotel room. So Dr. Benson leaves. Clayton breaks in, is messing with the medicines. And I got to say, I appreciate the camera work here and the music here.
Yes.
It's a handheld camera. It's very up close. It's very kind of, it's embracing the movement and just the emergency of trying to get in and out of this place. And the music really has a great kind of just ominous build up.
Yeah.
Now, Clayton also gets stuck in a bind because Linda and the doctor come back because they need the medicines.
Yeah, and did it show him hiding in a closet or something? Because I don't remember even.
He was.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a super weird 70s closet with a big long door. But yeah, he was hiding. We presume he got to do what he wanted to do. It's a little unclear to me in my mind's eye. But we move on back to Columbo talking to the vet and dog being cleared for health, and the doctor really trying to get dog out of there.
Yeah, he's trying. Poor Doc. He's like, look, man, I got a wife and kids to go home to. You need to take this dog. And Columbo's like, gets a call and is like, nope, sorry. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
See ya.
He better be charging like overtime to Columbo or something, right?
I would hope so. Speaking of overtime, the doctors are playing overtime with Dudek's heart rhythm.
Oh God, this it made me so upset. And again, Amanda, my lovely wife who was watching this episode with me, had to give me some clarification, because I was sitting here and the explanation we get from the doctor about this medicine coming in is that it was outside medicine coming into the hospital. Now, nowadays, again, this is why I had such an awful time understanding, is you can't do that kind of stuff, John. You can't bring outside medicine into the hospital.
Unless it's prescribed, right?
I don't even know if that.
I mean, what gets me is like it's a hospital in the middle of Los Angeles, one of the biggest cities in the world. You would think that the hospital would have the medicine on hand.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think. But again, so unfortunately, Dudek dies because medicine was tampered with, that we know because we saw who did it. And Columbo is trying to figure out why. Grills the doctor is pretty much saying, why was this even allowed? Which is my frustration. I felt it for Columbo. And again, he knows that the medicine got tampered with. He knows that it had to have been Clayton, which is why he meets up with Linda, who heard the news, and she is drinking a really tasty looking old fashioned, if I may say so. Good on her. Good on Linda for having that stiff of a great looking old fashioned, John.
You would notice an old fashioned.
I would. That was really, really tasty looking.
Yeah. Also, like, Columbo can't examine the syringes because they were tossed away due to hospital protocol. They were disposable.
Oh yeah, because hospital they'll keep that protocol, John. But outside medicine coming on in, that's perfectly fine. Fuck it.
Yeah. Also, I was kind of surprised at how unaggressive the resuscitation scene with the paddles was. I'm so modern medical shows being like super in your face about
Claire, get him out of here, he's crashing. But here it's just like one dude who looks like he's on his third cigarette, might as well have it dangling from his mouth going, all right, let's give him another shot. This is clear. Nah, he's gone.
It didn't work out as well as we thought, guys. Sorry. Then he farts. I don't know why.
Pretty much, man.
So, Linda, there's a brief scene with Clayton getting the call about Dudek dying, and there's visible relief, and then we get the conversation with Linda and Columbo, and how we learn where the medicine came from. Linda personally handed them to the doctor. There's no way that anybody saw that list. She's sure of that. And then Columbo starts asking about Clayton. And the fact that they met, and he briefly looked at it, and she says he only looked at it briefly. It wouldn't have been enough to remember it. But what's crazy is that as his ex-fiance, she should know he has a photographic memory,
right? You kind of think that would have been something she would have picked up on because they were almost married, John.
I mean, like, I think that just goes to the frustration we have in general about how Linda and Clayton are handled as people. Because let's be honest, they're not really handled as people.
No, not at all.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, but again, c'est la vie at that point, because she's really just there for that little piece of blast evidence against him.
And then we're in the home run era of this act. I don't even know what that phrase means, but I'm running with it.
That worked for me.
Yeah. So Columbo is wandering around the hotel and is at the scene of the attempted murder, now actual murder. And the garbage disposal is running, and Dog is just walking around.
Yeah, he's got his leash on, but Columbo's just so preoccupied that Dog loves trash, apparently, and runs up the stairs. Columbo runs after him. And John, did you notice the main garbage man here? Did you notice he's a familiar face?
I mean, he sounded familiar, but I couldn't place him anywhere. Why?
So in Blueprint for Murder, the one with the construction site and all of that was actually directed by Falk. That was the chief foreman that Falk spent a lot of time with trying to get pointers.
No way.
100%. Yep.
He moved from construction to garbage?
Apparently from construction to garbage.
I blame that one architect guy. He ruined his career.
You know what? That's probably fair.
We're going to add that to the Columbo Canon. And then shoot it out of the Columbo Canon.
Exactly.
So, in this scene, we learned that there's an emergency shutoff in the event that something goes into the garbage disposal that is not meant to go in there. And the machine will shut off immediately.
Yes. Immediately. And kind of anyone who would have been there that wants something to go down there that shouldn't be, like, a person's body, would have to hear it stop and then keep pressing the button to make sure it runs again.
Columbo starts thinking. He has an epiphany moment. And we go to Clayton playing in the main room he was waiting for Dudek in, and he's playing 10 matches of chess simultaneously with some civvies.
Just to honor Dudek.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you honor people, is just by playing chess a lot.
By showing off, right? Because that makes fucking sense.
Well, I mean, for a narcissist, probably. And then Columbo shows up, and what I appreciate of this scene, Anthony, and I think you'd agree, is that there's a subtle putting off balance that Clayton has here, and it's throughout Columbo's conversation with him. It's just like Columbo's just slowly twisting the screw and throwing him more into his paranoia and his panic.
Yeah, to the point where he loses against some poor little ginger boy that's got a really bad hairdo.
Yeah, I mean, he loses. It's like, from what I read in trivia wise, that move is literally the most greenest of moves you can make. That ended up putting Clayton into checkmate. So that's how distracted he is by Columbo's questions, because Columbo is saying, putting out the criteria, or the body of his accusation. If Clayton lost at the restaurant, that would have been enough to satisfy motive. His ego wouldn't have allowed him to suffer that loss. So it would be enough to kill him. And Linda, according to Clayton, would say, what happened was what Clayton said. They played, Clayton won, and then they left. But legal brain, it's hearsay.
Right.
It's inadmissible save for very particular exceptions, which, nothing would apply here as far as I know. Hearsay is a very complicated subject. I'm not going to get into it, but let's just say the argument that Clayton has here doesn't have any weight, and Columbo calls him out on it.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets to the point where he gets so riled up and loses that game to finally, he's like, fine, Columbo, show me. Give me the proof, show me. So Columbo takes him down to the basement where the dumpster is there. And John, how does Columbo ensnare him in this?
Well, the disposal is going full force. It's running, it's noisy, it's loud. And Clayton has his hearing aid in, and they have to shout at each other in order to be heard. Columbo starts saying, if Clayton was the murderer, and Clayton gets really angry about that, really angry, because he's not a murderer in his eyes, even though he knows he is. And Columbo's saying, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying if you were this murderer, and this went off without a hitch, it would have been the perfect murder. It would have been a pure accident, and nobody would have thought the wiser. And at this point, Clayton takes out his hearing aid. I imagine because he's just so frustrated between the noise of the garbage disposal and Columbo yelling at him. And for the record, we missed this earlier, but Clayton can read lips when he wants to.
Yep.
And that was established in the restaurant match with Dudek. Now, Columbo has an officer up top where the garbage chute is, and that officer shuts off the disposal. But Columbo keeps acting as if it's on.
Yep.
And it's talking to Clayton as if it was still on. And he's like, I can't talk to you because of this damn machine. And Clayton says, well, turn the damn thing off. And that's when he realizes.
Yep. And that's when he realizes, that's when Columbo knows that he got him.
It's like, why wouldn't, like you said earlier, quoting Columbo, why didn't the murderer just push the button again to finish the job?
Yep.
He would have had to have heard it.
Exactly.
And that only means that the murderer was a deaf man.
End scene. But before we end with you for a final few moments here, gentle folk listening at home, it's time for some final thoughts in a segment that we call
Just One More Thing.
And just one more thing.
John, my final thoughts of tonight's episode. This wasn't one of my favorite episodes. Let's start off with that. It's nowhere top tier of the past that we've watched. What I will say, though, is the chemistry between Falk and Harvey, it was very palpable on screen, especially in that diner scene where they, discover the street chess game.
Yeah, no, I agree. My thoughts, it's fine. It's a quality episode. It's not one of the classics. It's a little convoluted, to be quite fair, because it's just, I think it just wants to be. I think it's just the nature of a crime show. It's like sometimes you just have to have these fantastical murders instead of just shooting somebody in the head.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's not to bash the episode, because we've had episodes where there's a lot of fat in it that needed to be trimmed. This one had some, but for the most part, it flowed fine, except for, is this the hotel lobby or hospital lobby that we already previously discussed? That was just confusing.
Yeah. And we talked about it before. It's like the character development in some regards, particularly Clayton and Linda, it's not really, it could have been more. It's not really there. We get it's window dressing. It's not anything of substance. It's just, if we had gotten more with them, if this was a little bit of a longer episode and we got more like the deterioration of their relationship, and then we pick up after a time jump, something to give us more purpose and drive behind why she hates him so much.
Or even just not have her character in there.
I at the end of the day, it could have, the stuff that she does could have been done by Borowski.
Or by, General Exposition or Sergeant Exposition.
Or Dr. Exposition.
Dr. Exposition.
It's like like ultimately the I'm not sure what and this is not to discredit Linda Bruhl's performance. I think she does a very fine job here.
Absolutely.
Like, I didn't even know she was German based off of her accent.
Absolutely. 100%.
So, like, fantastic performer. If you're able to hide your accent that well, you're very well trained. But it's just, they don't give her anything to do.
Yeah.
And, like, you could have condensed it a lot better. It's, at the end of the day, it's a fine episode. Harvey is fine, but I feel like if they had gotten Clint Eastwood, or if they had wanted Clint Eastwood, they would have tried, because I feel like that's what he's supposed to be. I feel like he's supposed to be just this low-rent Clint Eastwood.
No, I disagree, John, because the whole thing is premised with a chess game. And can you really imagine Clint Eastwood in the mid-70s doing chess games?
Maybe.
I don't think it would have. I see what you mean, but if you take that out of the equation, it could have just been any person. Like, you could have thrown any other Columbo villain in this role and been fine.
Now I know what you're thinking. Did I move 2 pawns or only 3? Well, to be honest, in all this excitement, I forgot myself.
Okay, I'll give you that because that would have been amazing to see.
I know, but it's I'm very lukewarm on this.
You know what it is, John? It's a very definition of a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't do it. It doesn't do anything really bad. It doesn't do anything really good either.
Yeah,
it's pure. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we got 69 episodes total. There's going to be a lot like this one, I think.
A lot of nice episodes there, John. It's you have to have 3 out of 5. You can't always hit 5 out of 5, and Lord help you for always like 1 out of 5.
I mean, yeah. At this point, it's like, do you want to be a Stitch in Crime or a Dead Weight?
Or the ABC years, but we'll get to those.
Yeah. Well. Brace yourselves, folks. It's gonna be a doozy when we get there.
And
we still got a ways to go.
And speaking of a ways to go, and quite a doozy till we get to the end, John, thank you for coming back with us. Loyal listeners listening at home, you fine gentlefolk, thank you for listening and subscribing, rating, all of that. But John, end this episode as you only can, sir.
As always, this has been another file in the glorious Columbo Files, brought to you by the Ludic Lounge. I have been one of your hosts, John Soares, and on behalf of my podcast partner, my podcast brother from another mother, Antonicus Gluteus to the Maximus IV, we bid you a good evening, and thank you very much.
Hi, this is Peter Falk, and you've been listening to an episode of the Columbo Files, hosted by the Ludic Lounge. And just one more thing. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Ludic Lounge, Anthony at RojoLoco44, and John at just_John_0891. Or feel free to email us at theludiclounge@gmail.com.